Hi, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. Here in Colorado, it's a nice snowy day. I've got about 10 inches of snow on my deck, so I'm happy to be here inside, warm, and presenting to you. A couple of things I wanted to talk about as far as the graphical reports is two main things I'm going to do today. Graphical reports are brand new feature in Project 2013, so I'm going to go over some of the built-in reports that come with the program, tell you about some of the ones that I like and what you can use them for, and then I'll go in and show you how you can customize things. We'll go from very light customization to how you really get into deep changes and creating your own reports. The one thing I did want to mention is the project that I'm using today for this demonstration, and I'm pretty much going to do a demo for the entire webcast. This project is the project that I used for my Project 2013, The Missing Manual, and this is actually a project for planning a cycling fundraising event, and I just wanted to throw in a little pitch because the reason I did this was last year I rode the Tour de Cure for the American Diabetes Association, and I'm doing it again this year. So I talked to them and asked if I could use their event as the sample for my book. And they agreed, so that's what I'm working with. And if you feel like donating to the ADA, I would very much appreciate it, as would my friends with diabetes. Okay, so let's get into graphical reports. The one thing you'll notice is that in Project 2013, there's a new tab on the ribbon. It's the Report tab. And you can see that now Visual Reports has this one little button at the end, and most of the rest of the ribbon, or the Report tab, is different graphical reports. So let's take a quick look at one of the first ones, which is Project Overview, and that's under Dashboards. And this is kind of a nice report in that it shows you some of the basic things about your project. Actually, I kind of stumbled there for a second because I've been playing around with these reports, and I think I changed this one a little bit, so bear with me. But it shows you the dates, the start and finish date. It shows you how much is complete. This graph over on the right shows that the planning is just about complete for this project. Fundraising is partially underway, and event preparation has begun. It also has, I like this report because it shows some overview stuff. This is a chart right here. Then the late tasks is actually a table, so you can see that it lists a few tasks with different fields for those tasks. And then there's another table for milestones. So this is a quick high-level snapshot. Well, there's another report in Dashboards that I like a lot, and that is the Burndown Report. Now, the Burndown Report doesn't mean you get the matches out and set fire to the project. Basically, what this is looking at is how much work you've burned through on the project, or in other views, it might be how much money you've burned through as the project progresses. So the chart on the left is actually burn down of work. And you can see that this orange line, some of the work that's been done, it reduces the remaining cumulative actual work. And so basically where you get to this point, everything kind of levels out because that's where we are in the project right here. The other thing to notice, though, is the blue and green line, or blue and gray lines. The blue is the remaining work for the project, and the gray is the baseline. Now, it's a little hard to see right here, but the blue line is slightly above the gray, and what that means is the amount of remaining work is higher than what the baseline is. So that means that there's more work left to do than you had planned. So there is a chance that the project could be late or that it's a little bit behind schedule. Not necessarily, though. On the right side, it's a slightly different view in that it's the burn down of tasks. So this is showing how many tasks have been completed. And you can see that, it's the same thing. There's only some minor variations in this. This field list task pane, I'll start diving into this as I get into some of the other reports. So for example, cost overview. Now the cost overview report is a really great example of these new graphical reports because it has a little bit of everything. So for example, the cost overview, that's just a text box with some text in it. These three cells, the cost, remaining cost, and percent complete, they look like just, big, giant text boxes. But what these actually are, and this is something that you can use in your reports, it's a single cell table. So if I click that cost cell, you can see over in this field list pane over on the right side that the cost field is displayed in that table, and the outline level is project summary. So it's showing the cost for the entire project. So that's just a single cell table, and so is remaining cost and percent complete. And you can add, these are great for showing a summary of your project. On the other hand, the project versus cost is a chart. And this chart, one of the things that you'll notice with this is it's showing the percent complete for the project as well as the cost. And so you see there's a little hint here, and it says if percent complete is below the cumulative cost line, your project may be over budget. Well, in this case, percent complete is above, so the project is under budget. And so that's just one way to look at the status of your project. One thing you can see here is category says time. And along the bottom, you can see that the time, the category is basically the x-axis. So time is on the x-axis. And then just as a comparison, let me click the cost status chart instead, because you can see it has tasks down at along the horizontal axis. So when I click that one, now you can see that the category is name. So you can choose what appears along the x-axis by choosing this category. Now let's look at this cost status chart a little bit more. This is a slightly different look than the progress versus cost. This chart actually has what's known as stacked bars, and so the baseline is a gray line with dots at each top-level task, but then the bars are stacked, so actual cost is in orange and the remaining cost is in blue. And one of the things you'll see in another report, it's hard to see in this one, is if those stacked bars are taller than the baseline, that means that the cost has gone over what you had planned. And I'll show you that in a report shortly. The other thing you can see over in this task field list pane is that the outline level is level 1. So that means that these are top-level tasks. If you wanted to get into more detail, you could choose a different level or even all subtasks, although I can tell you it'll get pretty cluttered. And then the last thing in this report over here is the cost status table. And you can see that this one is a list of tasks with actual fields from your project, actual cost, remaining cost, baseline, all the usual suspects. And what I wanted to show you over in this field list pane is that if you look, you can see that there's a check mark for baseline cost. You can collapse these fields if you don't want to see all those baselines. Well, you should be able to. Let me hide that. Try again. There we go. And then you can see actual cost, and so if you want to add more fields or remove fields from this table, all you have to do is turn checkboxes on and off. So it's really, really easy to customize these tables. Okay, so let's see. Let's take a look at some of the cost reports. The first one is cash flow. And this shows cash, basically the money being spent over time. This chart at the top shows how much you're spending each quarter for the project. But you also have this cumulative cost so that you can see how the total grows over time. And then at the bottom, you have a table, again, top-level tasks with the typical earned value type fields, actual cost, the budgeted cost of work performed, which is earned value, and budgeted cost of work scheduled is the planned value. So we'll look at those a little bit more closely when we get to earned value. Another one is cost overruns. And this one shows you where tasks might be going over budget, where you have a cost variance. So, for example, you can see at the top level, planning did go over a little bit, and fundraising is also over. On the left side, this chart is task cost variance. So this is by task. But then the chart on the right side is resource cost variance. So you can see the fundraising manager, for some reason, is the big culprit on any of the cost variances. And then these tables down below have information about the tasks and their cost and the cost variance. And on the right side, it's by resource. One of the things I just wanted to say, as I go through these reports, Project 2013 came out with a lot of built-in graphical reports, and the way I look at these is use them to get ideas for the kinds of reports that you might need for your project. And then I'll show you a little bit later how you can copy these reports and modify them so that they show what you want. You don't have to start from scratch. But just take a look through all the different reports that are in this on these menus, because there are a lot of different, almost every one of them is set up a little bit differently, and I think the whole point of that was just to give you a lot of examples of different ways that you could put these reports together. Now, another cost report is earned value, and I really like this one because I really like the earned value graph. I've always liked the fact that with these 3 lines, you can tell whether your project is ahead of or behind schedule, and whether it's over or under budget. And now with graphical reports, you can basically a couple of clicks and you have that graph. Whereas with visual reports, visual reports has an earned value, but it just took a lot of clicks to get to the report that you wanted. Now, one of the things that I'm going to do is, clicking this graph, I'm going to show you how you can change the date range on a chart like this. So you click the chart, and then you have the time category. So click Edit, and then just type in whatever date range you want, and that changes it for the chart. So now you can see how these lines spread out. The gray line, budgeted cost of work scheduled. So that's your planned value. And the orange line, budgeted cost of work performed, that's earned value. So in this case, you can see that the earned value is below what you planned. So that means that the project is behind schedule. On the other hand, the actual cost is above the budgeted cost. So this project is, the costs are higher than planned. So there's some corrections that probably need to happen before too much more time passes. Now I'm going to quickly refer to these reports. The in-progress category has a few, and I call these task management. So, for example, if you want to look at the critical tasks in your project, just display the critical task report, and you get a table with the task names and a few fields. Of course, you can select this table and then add whatever fields you want over in the field list pane. There's also late tasks. This is actually the same table that appears on that project overview report. So the same table with just a few late tasks. You might want to look at what you need to do to get those back on track. And then in the resources category, there are two reports, over-allocated resources and resource overview. So let's take a look at the resource overview. This is what I was talking about earlier. Here you can see this taskbar shows the gray line is the baseline, and you can see that the stacked bars for the fundraising manager are above the baseline. So that's where that variance came in for the fundraising manager. You can also see there's a work status chart in this report, and it shows how much of the work is done by the different resources on the project. So, for example, the board of directors, they're sitting back, they got their feet up, they're all done, while everybody else is finishing their work. And there's a table down here, resource status, so you can see the remaining work for different resources. Now, one of the things that you probably noticed since I've been going through all these reports is running these reports is really, really easy. You go to the report tab and select the category and then the report that you want. But there's also another really easy thing, which is the recent reports. So if you run the same reports again and again, you might not even have to go to the categories anymore. You can just click recent and then choose the report that you want. Also, if you create custom reports, and you see I've got a couple of custom reports here, you can select your custom reports from that drop-down menu. The other thing about these reports is printing them or copying them is really, really easy. Let's go back to, let's see, the cost overview. So if I want to print this report, go to the File tab, Print, just as you would print your project file, and you see the preview of the report. You can choose all the print settings. These are pretty much the same as what's been in project in the past. Click the print button and it'll come out. But the other thing that you can do is you can actually copy a chart to another file. So let's see. For example, if I just drag over these pieces, you can see that they're all selected. And basically, at this point, I won't demonstrate it, but you can press Control-C to copy these pieces to the clipboard. You can pop over into Microsoft Word and Control-V, paste it into a status report. Project and the rest of the Office programs play really, really nicely together, so you can copy and paste objects, just as you would, as we have for years. Okay, so let's take a look at getting into a little bit more customizing. I'm going to use this cost overview report, and we'll select this progress versus cost chart. So I showed you the date range before. So if you wanted to change the date range, click the Edit button, put in the date range that you want. And that changes the date range. Well, let's pop down to the cost status graph. And I did show you with the field. So let's say that we wanted to add something else. In this case, the budgeted cost of work scheduled. Just turn on a checkbox, and you can see that it adds another line there. And that's, the yellow line is now the budgeted cost of work scheduled for the project. And we'll also, as we progress, we'll dig into how you change how these things appear. But adding fields, whether you're adding fields to a graph or to a table, it's as easy as coming over here and turning checkboxes on or off. The other thing you can do is filters. Now, these filters are the exact same filters that you use when you're looking at a project Gantt chart. So if you wanted to, for example, just filter this cost status on critical tasks, now all you see are the critical tasks in the chart, or maybe incomplete tasks. So just change the filter. You can change which tasks you see in that chart. Group by, these are the same groups that you see when you're looking at a Gantt chart, so you can group results the same way. And then, as I mentioned before, outline level, that determines what level of the task outline you're looking at. So, for example, the big cells over here, those are at the project summary level, this one up here at the top. If you really wanted to get into detail, you could select all subtasks. But let's go over to this table over on the left-hand side. I think I'm clicking way too fast. So we've got that table on the left-hand side, and this actually gives me a chance to show you if you select a chart or a table and the field list pane doesn't appear, go to the Design tab, and then in this case it's Table, so just click the button in the Show Hide section, and that will turn the field list pane on and off. So let's say this table, I wanted to look at level 2 of the hierarchy. Just select level 2, and now you'll see different tasks in that table. I'll go back to the top level. And then finally, and I'm going to scroll down a little so you can see the table. Because this table has values, one of the things that's very useful is to sort. So in this case, it's not sorted, but let's say I wanted to sort these tasks by cost variance. Just click what field I want to sort by. You can then click the button for ascending or descending, and the table changes. Okay, so now digging a little bit deeper, I'm going to close this pane, and I'm going to go back to the progress versus cost. Now, another thing is on the Design tab. So this is a chart. So you see the Chart Tools Design tab. When you go to Add Chart Element, here are all the different elements that you might have in a chart. And you can, for each one of these, you can determine what's displayed in that chart. Whether there's a title or labels on the data point, the legend, and you can see that there are options. So, for example, more legend options opens up a Format Legend pane, so you can position the legend, choose text, what it looks like. Really, there are like so many possible options. You can do almost anything you want with these graphs and tables, but it'll take a while. So, which actually brings me to my next thing, which is quick layout. If you really don't want to spend a lot of time picking all these different options, go to quick layout, and you can see that there are these little thumbnails of different layouts for this chart. And if you look closely, this one has a legend on the right. You can see this thumbnail looks like the legend is on the bottom. Some of them have grid lines, some of them don't. So you can basically look at the thumbnails that you want, and then if you want to change the report, just click the one that looks like what you want, and it will apply it. Let's trying to get one to actually change. Hang on. There we go. So you just click whichever layout you want and see if that's what you want to use. Now the chart styles, these are kind of like the Gantt bar styles on the ribbon. So it's really an aesthetic thing. So for example, if you wanted a dark background so that the chart stands out, or it just changes the look a little bit. So you can just pick a style. You can see that the font on the title changes. So you can just try different styles. And then the last one over here on the very right is change chart type. Now, for those of you who have worked with charts and graphs in Excel, this will look pretty familiar. Basically, this gives you the option of just how you want to show this information. So right now we have a combo. There are two different series. There's the percent complete and the cumulative cost. So those two lines represent series. But if you wanted to, you could show those in columns side by side, or you could show them as bars. Basically, or just show them as lines. So just click the type of chart that you want, and just depending on the data, you have to see what makes the most sense. And I'm going to cancel that. And while we're here, so right now we're on the Design tab, but there's also a Format tab. So that's right. There's even more stuff that you can do besides what's on the Design tab. But the Format tab is really, there is some formatting on the Design tab, but the Format tab is more like the shapes, the colors of boxes, the borders of the boxes, what color they are the corners rounded or are they sharp? You can add shapes, so if you wanted to draw an arrow and point to something to emphasize it, you can do that. Let's see. Sorry, get back to our chart. Go back to the Format tab. You can do fill and outline, word art, send things back and forward, change the size of the chart. So if you wanted to make it a little bit bigger, you can do that. So there's just a lot of different things that you can do, and you can also format all these different pieces, which I'm going to get into shortly. But first, let's take a quick peek at some of the tools with tables. So now you see when I click a chart, it's Chart Tools, Design and Format. But then when I click a table, it's Table Tools, Design and Layout. And these are going to be a lot like the commands that you have in Word for tables. So let's go to the Design tab. And what you see here is it's a little bit different than the charts. So header row means it emphasizes the first row. So if you turn that off, the header row disappears. Turn it on, and it shows the field names up at the top. If you turn on the first column checkbox, what that will do is it will bold the first column. So in this case, it makes the task names stand out. You can also add a total row if you want, or a last column. For example, if you wanted to have totals in the columns or totals in the rows, you can do that. And then the banded, that refers to the grid line. So right now, banded rows means there are horizontal lines in between the tasks. If I turn on banded columns, I get vertical lines as well. And the table layout tab has, like I said, similar things to what you would see in a Word table. So you can change the height and width of rows and columns in the table. You can change the text direction, the alignment, whether it's top, center, or bottom, left, center, or right justified, you know, just all the usual things. You can change the table size, the entire table size, the height and width. And just to mention, you can also format text boxes. Of course, a text box is a lot simpler. So if you go to Drawing Tools, Format, you can change whether there's a border, just like these other cells. Change the height and width. Just some basic things with text boxes. Now, another thing you can do, you probably noticed as I've been adding things, these reports, they're a lot like if you've worked with Visio, these reports are very much like working with the shapes on a Visio diagram. So, for example, you can move things around, copy them, paste them. Let's say this chart right here is pretty close to another chart that I want in this report. So I select it, press Control-C, press Control-V, and I've got a copy of it. Now I can drag that down and put it down here and make whatever changes I want to it. Maybe I want to make this a bar chart. And I could go through and just add different fields, do different things to that chart. So move things around, copy, paste, all works. The other thing that you can do is, Report Tools, the Design tab. So, there are quite a few tabs here to deal with, but just remember that when you select a chart, you'll see Chart Tools, Design, and Format. The Report Tools Design tab is specific to the entire report, not just that chart. So, for example, with the Report Tools Design tab, you can insert images, image files. You can add shapes. You can add a new chart, another table, or a text box. So you can just add new things to your report very easily. Now, as far as creating a new report, I've just been playing around with the existing reports in here. But if you want to create a new report, the thing you can do is click the down arrow, click Rename Report, and just put in a new name for that report, and it'll make a copy. So I'll just be really, really creative here, Custom Cost Overview, and click OK. Then, when I go back to the Report tab, you can see that the Custom Cost Overview report is there. And now I can make whatever changes I want to this report to customize it. On the other hand, to create a brand new report where you start from scratch, click the down arrow for New Report, and you can see there are a couple of options. There's the really bare bones, where all you get is a title block. Otherwise, it's completely blank. But you can also create one that has a title and a chart, or a title and a table, or a title and two charts, so you can compare things. The other thing I wanted to, and this is really the last thing I wanted to mention, is that also very similar to the way you work with things in Excel is that when you click a chart, for example, you've got this field list pane, and you can do different things there, or you can come over to Add Chart Element, and you can choose different parts of the chart there. But the other thing you can do is you can right-click something in this chart to format it. So, for example, I can right-click those titles for the horizontal axis, and then on Shortcut menu, choose Format Axis. And now I've got another pane that has all sorts of options for formatting those titles. And one of the things, this is something that I always look for because it's always buried, but if you want to change the rotation of these titles, so for example, right now you can read these, but let's say you created a chart and the task names were horizontal. They would all be overwritten on top of each other, and you wouldn't be able to read that. So you want to see how to reorient those. Well, that's in the Format axis. Click this Size and Properties icon, and then you can see text direction. So, for example, if I wanted to rotate it to vertical, I could do that, and now you see that they're all vertical. Or I could change it to horizontal and do a custom angle and change how that alignment is displayed. And the same thing holds true for other things. So let's say you wanted to right-click the chart itself, format data series. You can format those. Or you can come over here and choose things off this menu as well. So you really have a lot of choices for how you select these things. Even format the chart area, just whether you want to put a fill or a border around it. So just right-click the things that you want to format, and then make the changes that you want. And that's a really quick run through all the things. Like I said, there are a lot of different options, so it kind of pays to play with them. Take a look at the things that you like in the reports. You can copy these and then change them to tweak the way they look. And if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with me. I really appreciate everybody joining us today.